All right. Action.
250,000 people attended the March on Washington in 1963, where Dr. Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech. But have any of you ever recognized the lasting impact that his speech has had on over 300 million Americans today? Dr. King's speech served as one of, if not the most unforgettable moments and lasting foundations of the Civil Rights era. And due to his unique public speaking style and willingness to speak his mind, King's speech was able to rally crowds that peacefully demonstrated and reprimanded the racial inequalities which were being tolerated. Had Dr. King not delivered this speech, what would the fate of the nearly 40 million African Americans be today? The Reverend's upbringing resulted in his unique and assertive public speaking style that in the speech inspired millions as it continues to do so 50 years later. And the values and style which King exhibited in his speech have been utilized as educational tools for learning for students. The speaking skills that King developed during his adolescence were unique and exclusive to the South. In Thomas Peake's article, The Speeches of Martin Luther King Jr., it is noted explicitly how there was a sense of urgency and exuberance that was displayed in the King's public speeches. This style is undoubtedly owed to his father and grandfather, who were successful Southern reverends, and growing up around their rhythm and forceful tones of style gauged the civil rights leader's mind. However, most do not recognize the influence these two had on his public speaking career, and how much they contributed to his recurring success. Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech focused entirely on the struggle for human equality and nonviolent protesting, which were consistent reoccurring themes in his speeches. And by tying religion in, he was able to find a common ground that many could relate to. Now is the time to make a justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. Dr. King's father and grandfather contributed immensely to his speaking style, which has allowed him to leave lasting impacts on societies throughout the world. The speech's impact on the audience was beyond captivating, and by achieving ends of racial equality, King's I Have a Dream speech continues to give hope and inspiration even today. As one of the most prevalent African-American authors, we can turn to Maya Angelou's dissertation in the commemorative periodical, What the Dream Means to Me, to reminisce on her reaction to Dr. King's 50th anniversary by testifying, "There is still hope. If there were not, there would be no reason to get up in the morning. There is hope. Sometimes you need to be jarred into finding it, jarred into sharing it. I remember a statement of the Reverend King's that you ought to believe in something in life. Believe in something so fervently that you will stand up with it until the end of your days." The periodical quotes Jesse Jackson, and he too understands the effectiveness of King's speech and communication was to the cause he was fighting for, and how it carried over today. We had this sense that we were winning. We were rising up. We had overcome fear. That speech was an early indication that if we keep marching, if we keep pushing, we're going to win this battle. It was a dawn to daylight speech, and we won. Now we have the sense that we're at dusk, moving toward midnight. One thing we can learn from Dr. King is that the forces of equal protection should neither sleep nor slumber. We've got to keep marching. The speech drove Americans to fight for racial equality, and once it had finally been achieved, it became apparent how King's impact and style of speaking could be used as tools for teaching. Probably the most important thing to take away from Dr. King's speech would be the educational values for teaching, communication, and public speaking. According to Jeffrey Godwin of the Journal of Organizational Behavior Education, the I Have a Dream speech serves as a teaching tool for transformational leadership by helping students articulate a vision or idea, and how to successfully communicate the message to listeners. By creating a vision, students studying this style of speaking can have an idea of the less realistic and credible future for their organization. This style, which King utilized in I Have a Dream, left a vital foundation for those that wish to further their knowledge and skills in communication and transformational leadership. Godwin emphasized how King's speech exemplifies a leader effectively communicating a transformational vision through the usage of rhetorical devices and a sense of urgency and a familiar language and imagery that the crowd was able to connect with. In his book, Rhetoric in Public Affairs, Mark Vail dedicates a large portion and effort to analyzing King's speech and urges that King's remarks in the speech struck the perfect tone within the overall context of the event and gave way to the civil rights movement's success spreading like a wildfire. Even 50 years later, the speech continues to inspire and teach innumerable lessons which we owe all in part to Dr. King. The I Have a Dream speech left a lasting impact which we used to fight for racial equality, and the public speaking style and tone which King utilized will be forever remembered and taught for time to come. Dr. King's father and grandfather influenced his unique public speaking style, which gave way to his success later on in communicating his speeches, and therefore was able to leave a lasting impact. Dr. King's speech liberated and lifted America to new heights by challenging political norms through the Civil Rights era. And without the I Have a Dream speech, it becomes hard to even imagine where we would be. Thank you.
Yeah.